And we're live. Well, welcome to another edition of Life is People. And well, I think it's been way too long. It's welcome to return to the Ceiling Demons. It's been, like I said, way too long. So before we go any further, how are you two chaps tonight?
Yes, Tim.
Good
Now,
evening.
Lieutenant Tim. Lovely to see you, buddy. Lovely to have a chat. And yeah,
Well, like I said,
doing all right. Doing all right, man.
I was just saying it's been a while since we sort of you put the demons have put their face in public on this podcast. So generally, man, let's just kind of go from square one. What have you been up to in the last sort of few months? I mean, what sort of I know people can sort of you dropped a couple of sort of short singles, you had and you've obviously got the new single at the moment. But just generally, give us a quick synopsis of the last few months and what you've been up to.
So I think the last time we chatted was sort of when we put out Lost Away.
Yeah.
So since then, we've 2016 ticked over, and we launched in 2017. So yeah, we've had a few things that we've been working on in that between that period. And yeah, the last thing we released was March Forwards in April, end of April. So yeah, it was sort of put that out as a single, and have been doing a few shows here and there, and yeah, just slaying forth, man. Basically, yeah. So the last time we chatted, like Si said, probably around the time I put out my Lost Away on final, which is great. I know we sent you a copy over Christmas. But yeah, just kind of withdrew into the winter a bit, you know what I mean? It's sort of that time of year, and then kind of just gradually brought ourselves back to life, and then come into the spring with March Forward, and we've got the whole sort of plan down for this next release and this next album. So I guess the kind of winter hibernating months, we were kind of laying the foundations for what is to be.
Well, man, I think it's a very kind of, as I said before, you very eruditely sort of spoke upon that, because I think time synergy-wise, perfectly with what going on with the winter, man. And obviously, you mentioned March Forward there. Now, there's so much I want to talk to you about that one track, the lyrics and stuff like this. And now, obviously, the lyrics are very powerful kind of lyrics. And obviously, the other thing again, I think maybe some of the reactions I've had since people prepared it, it's very demon-esque, but very in the widest sense, because you've always been renowned for not just being kind of pigeonholed into one sort of section, and that it's a very powerful track. So really kind of what are the roots of the lyrics and stuff, because they're very powerful. I mean, particularly the ending line about the rose and stuff like this, and it's very sort of lyrics are very sort of very powerful. So maybe sort of give me your both your reflections on what kind of inspired that track.
Okay. Do you want to go first?
Oh yeah, I'll tell you about my first, because it's the first one. I'll briefly touch on the instrumental. So it's a Beat Demon instrumental from George, the in-house producer, the Ceiling Demons generally. So it was quite a sparse sort of beat, driven by the brass, so there's kind of quite a strong kind of like North and Yorkshire sort of sound to that. In terms of the first verse, I guess I'm kind of addressing sort of similar themes to some of our other tracks, really. I mean, I'm talking about essentially just sort of coming out of the winter, that sort of springtime, and just putting that to bed, kind of touching on hope, kind of touching. My verse is more of a spoken word piece, really. But yeah, I mean, I'm touching on mental health. I'm touching on depression, anxiety, the glimmer of light that we might see at the end of the tunnel, which gets us from day to day and can get us through the dark months or the dark times in our lives, really. And the ultimate message of it for my first is just to feel the light and love, and no matter how distant that is, you've got to feel it. you got to feel it, and that's what gets you through. That's for my first, right? But I'm sure this lad will tell you about it.
And totally feel what Dan sort of put down there, and writing from a similar sort of a place, and absorbing the essence of the music as well. For me, it was like a time when Paul was a friend of ours who's very much represented that white rose of Yorkshire, something that we sort of transformed into our own rose thanks to your magical work, Tim. But there's something in that essence which I feel like I'm touching on that sort of path, and that sort of light and love as well, but also the battle and the struggle, and how we must march forward through the darkness. So yeah, I guess like Dan says, there's similar things in a lot of our work, really. But there's something sort of, of that horn sort of leading the way, like a bit of an elegy, like a
marching band, a brass marching band, just
a togetherness almost. So yeah, we just it's a very sort of sparse beat in a sense, and it just sort of hit a point at the end when it peaks. But likewise, my sort of take on it was a bit different to some of the stuff we've done as well. It was a bit more sort of sung. The lyrics were the first part of my verse, and then just a little bit more sort of rap and spoken word elements as well. So yeah, we just thought it was a great way to kind of introduce this new record, and I guess having it sort of correlate with the seasons is very much rooted in a lot of our work anyway. But just the fact that we've just been through all this darkness and now it's spring, so the seeds are planted like in a flower bed.
Well, dude, this is one of the things I was going to mention, because I think I mean, I've had the privilege to sort of listen to this, like you said, for a few months now, and it's been rattling around my mind, and I've created a lot to it. It's been very, like I say, it's been part of my life now, and I think, when people have been asking me, what do you know about the new Seed and Demons album? The only thing I can reflect to them is you are basically speak upon this dialectic you just spoken upon, the duality that seems to be around. Because, as you said, even March On is a perfect example. It's very emotive. It can be very haunting. It's but yet very inspirational. So and I think the other fascinating one, particularly since March Forward has been sort of released to the public, is you've got to remember the whole reach of the Seed and Demons, the whole reach of this world we live in. Is obviously to people like myself and you who around Yorkshire, the Yorkshire band means one thing, particularly it's very emotive. I mean, it goes back to that word again, very emotive to people in Yorkshire who are anywhere around my age, particularly what was in the 80s and stuff like that. But it's been fascinating, and I'd love to hear your reflection. What have you had any sort of feedback from outside of out of the country? Because I had a couple of I'll give you reflections. I was speaking to you the other day about it, but a couple of particularly people in America like just blown away by it, because they just don't get to hear that kind of that brass band at all. And if they have, they've maybe seen the full Monty, and it's been a bit, but they don't ever associate, like I said. But that's the part that started this conversation. That's exactly the great dialectic of where you are as a band, and you always have been. You've always been able to play different and almost put things into people's consciousness that they wouldn't have been experienced before, or even hearing the music. So that's what I'm saying. Have you just quickly on that, have you had any sort of reflections? I mean, particularly because you played your gig on in Leeds on the weekend. I mean, what kind of reflections you had about just having the whole brass band feel?
Well, that song in terms of like an international take, I've heard a couple from like the North America regions.
Comparing it, it's that one where it's like comparing it to like the National, which is like an American indie band meets the Streets, was it something?
Yeah.
Quite
I think that was Beautiful Freaks. I think they're UK actually.
Right.
But there were a few.
Yeah.
Who is based, I believe, in Toronto.
Canada. Yeah.
Ben, who writes for them. Yeah, he had some really nice things to say about that track.
Yeah.
And there was in correspondence with a fella called who has a label called Filthy Broke Records, and he was saying it's nice to hear stuff from across the pond, quite alternative sort of takes on hip hop and whatnot. And one of them was Alan, was it? Who was saying it's like there's a bit of a cult band called Cloud Dead. It's like it's like if Cloud Dead got a fucking farm.
That's right.
I thought it was quite cool.
Yeah.
Well, I was saying else I was going to, again, it's been on since we last sort of, we had a conversation. And I don't know how much you want to speak about it, but one of the things you did as well, you obviously collaborated with Sounds of Equinox, and I know that's just been released recently. So is there something else you want to sort of speak upon? And your kind of, how was that collaborating with Paul, who obviously been on, on this as a guest? So how did you find collaborating with him?
Yeah. The album, it's hard to be happy when your head is full of sin. It comes out on Monday, the 26th. So it's like, it's on the cusp of being out, but like not quite. But like there quite a lot of songs are, and that title, I thought it was class. But he really liked the Belly of the Hopeless EP that we put out with Johnny Swift from Outside Your House, Fucks Tapes. And Johnny put a few of his own lyrics on over that tape, and the last song on Sundays, his lyric at the end is, "It's hard to be happy when your heart is made of tin." I believe that was his lyric.
Yeah.
But and that sort of theme and almost wordplay resonated with Paul, that he wanted to get like. He ran it by us, like he's like, "It's alright if I use," I pretty much almost use this phrase, but it's like everything's a remix. Everything's like you take influence from all sorts of shit and you put your own slant on it and you pay homage to different things and this that, and like fucking. It was cool. It was cool that he reached out and he mentioned about that. But like,
the sound of Equinox is quite fascinating. It's so it's essentially like a poetry record. But
I think most of the poems on is because he put out a book, which was hitting the brick wall,
The Black Wall.
hitting the black wall, yeah. And like I bought a copy of him like pretty much as soon as he's got it sent out, like, and as soon as he got it done, really, I think, and. Yeah, like he sent us it and like, yeah, man, it's really fucking dark. I give him a quote for it, and it's like it's really dark, but I relate to it. I mean, like a lot of our shit we write is quite dark and twisted, but it's expressing and it's exercising demons, and I think that can only be a positive sort of thing. So a lot of the spoken word pieces I believe come from that book. But as you were saying about the process of collaboration with the artists. So you would like it's an interesting way he's gone about it, isn't it? Like,
yeah, because that's been the sort of poetry's been the foundation, and all the artists have had their own sort of input into it. So yeah, we're blessed to be part of that. Our input, we kept it quite just to a soundscape, really. So yeah, I'll be looking forward to getting that out, and I'm sure Paul can't wait.
Definitely, it's got some good collaborations on there, and yeah, well, I mean, we made it was just an instrumental. So essentially, Zion herself and the best of the production, so it was worked on with us and George. I'd have liked to have gotten into a studio and to have recorded a bit of words as well, but at the time it was just not logistically possible. But that could be something for the future, who knows? But like, I was happy with what we did for it, but the other collaborations on it, after hearing the whole album, like it's very eclectic and it's very interesting. And, you know, he's pushing a lot of different things.
Really feeling it
forward, yeah, really feeling it. So yeah, wishing him all the best with that release on Monday.
Well, I think what you just spoken upon there, and it alludes to what I was just trying to say earlier on about the themes of the new album coming out. Was, I think, like you said, you've always been, and you always will be real, and you're always going to have darkness, and you're going to wrestle those darker, murky waters. But I think one of the things that like I said, when people ask me a reflection of what your thoughts on, and I said it's more than anyone else, my friend. And I've told you this in person, but you seem to be so on point about where we are as this world right now, and I think you're I said you're very optimistic in a lot of what you're saying in the new album. But I think it's exactly what you just spoke upon there, Dan. And I think it's something that maybe I wanted to sort of speak to you about, particularly around something we spoke about the other day, around that whole idea of what you're doing from a ground level upwards, of connecting and collaborating, and you can speak upon it. And I really want to just maybe both of you to sort of give an insight to this, because I think it's artists and musicians and creative people need to hear and understand that this can be brought up from the ground up. And you've just perfectly just hinted upon something that you're aware of, like you said, with your connection with Paul and the sounds of Equinox, and you said about how there's these little like networks going, and it was something we spoke the other day, and it relates around, which is something I'm going to key up in a minute, about the NARC magazine. Now they put out obviously the little short one today, but they would perfectly and maybe just give a little reflection about maybe what they're about, and particularly what's going on in Darlington, around North Yorkshire, and because I think this really speaks upon the optimism of where people are, like you said, the creative people are starting just like you say, we're starting just to reach out and I think it's been a theme of what we've talked about many times on this podcast, but I think you're seeing it step by step actually being put into action. And I've seen it with the Frux Takes release. I saw it with the sounds of Equinox. We were talking about it the other day, and I really wanted you to give reflection, because I know many people listen to this and they always, I'm asked a lot about it's all right talking about this, but is it actually being done in actual real life and actual between people? And I know particularly around the North Yorkshire area, particularly, you were talking about there's this growing sort of network and community based up. So I don't know if you want to speak upon that. Well, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, really.
Yes, certainly. So, well, there's a lot of good stuff happening around our kind of playing field, so to speak. I mean, we always sort of feel like outsiders, and to be fair, I always like being played. I like playing the outsider. I mean, like, just to be fair, like we're from Richmond, this fucking out here, or we're from the Yorkshire Dales. There's not there, but things that we gravitate towards. So obviously, we sort of started in Leeds, so we've got quite a decent the roots grown within that city and around that sort of region, and it's that's all Yorkshire, so it ties back to Richmond. You're still kind of a stone's throw from Leeds, really. Same with being because we're on the cusp of that northeast region as well. So we've got the Yorkshire thing, but we're also on the cusp of the northeast thing. And the northeast, I feel it's been neglected, to be honest, for many a year musically. But in recent years, I think there's always been artists come up and I mean the odd ones break through this, that, the other. But in recent years, there seems to be a very strong sense of community in the scene brewing up around, Teesside, Darlington, Newcastle, Sunderland, Stockton, yeah. And it's good for us because we're on that cusp. We can, we're kind of taken under two wings to a sense, but we're still, our own entity as well. But it's great to be in and amongst and to see these kind of scenes start thriving. So there's a lot of good stuff happening with festivals like Stockton Corner, which we played earlier this year. There's another one in Middlesbrough called Twisterella Festival, which happens in October. I think they're announcing the lineup for that on Friday, so it'll be interesting to see who's on it. There is Evolution Emergent in Newcastle, so that's run by like a music charity called Generator, and this is a funded charity which gives a lot of good resources to musicians. So it gives them a platform to get their music out. They offer
help and hand.
They offer help and hand with so many different like industry like classes and events so that people who want to learn how to market themselves right, you know what I mean, artists want to learn how to do this, that. Generate is a great sort of charity for that. It's based in Newcastle, but it supports throughout the whole of the North East. And then you've got the smaller public, like you've got publications like NARC, which has been going for 10 years. So we've just had something put on their website today. But originally it started as just a little scene, so it's just like a magazine monthly, tells you all about the upcoming gigs and what's happening in the region. And that's been flying the flag for the North East for a long time, but it just seems that now more than ever there seems to be more like events and more people like getting involved and the community kind of blooming. And maybe that's from us being doing a bit of the hip hop thing as well. We kind of feel that because you see there's a lot of love for a lot of the Northeast hip hop rap scene, which has been lacking for a long time. So it's good to see stuff like that. But yeah, it depends upon publications like NARC spreading the word, putting on events, Generator, a charity putting on events, spreading the word. Stuff like
just the passion that these things have to put in, you know.
Yeah, the passion, and it's the promoters and the people in the bands who are being promoters themselves who are the ones responsible for it. So it's and in Durham, like look at Durham, great little sort of punk DIY scene going on there. Like it's all, and I feel it's all kind of interlinked to that DIY punk mentality. Essentially, you can't rely on anyone like other than yourself, so you have to get in and amongst it and swim or sing as some may do, but like essentially you have to have that do-it-yourself mentality, and then you meet like-minded people, and then you collaborate with like-minded people, and you can help things that you're growing collaborate with what other people are growing, and then you're creating more of a movement in a sense. And you know, for the youth culture, where you see a time where youth culture kind of lacks what perhaps we had in the 90s and the 80s, 60s, 70s. We had kind of subcultures of genres of music. So you had your goths and your fucking whatever, your skinheads, your rockers, your punks, whatever you were, you were kind of assigned to that tribe. Whereas these days, it's like, that's not so much a thing, but like to be in the indie DIY sort of mentality, and to be, you know, you've got an open-minded ear to all this different sort of music, which I think you kind of have to have these days, and I think the youth kind of have it more so than the previous generations. But I think by taking in all as much influence as possible and create yourself, do it yourself, it can only be, it's got to be the step forward in terms of creation, music, art, and ultimately culture. Yeah, I hope that helps answer your question there, mate.
No. Just quickly, I think this is a really sort of good point to put a flag post in and again highlight this fact. And you know, as I said, and it really kind of plays around really where I think the whole of the journey of the scene team is. You've inspired, you know this, and you know the many, you're kind of like, as I said before, you're kind of vanguard or the anthem band for so many little coders and programmers who, as I said to you the other day, who are busy sort of like, you know, little elves in little corners, dark rooms, just sitting there programming stuff. It's going to, you know, like if you just take the analogy of 1 in 10 of them just comes through. It's one of these is just going to blow everything away. And I think it's fascinating that you say about, you know, where you know, about scenes and stuff like this, because I think that's of all the times, dude. I'm old enough to remember the, you know, the metal scene being born and, you know, grunge coming and going and all this, but never before. We've talked about this many times. Is as artists and musicians, and I said before, are we going to have? We're starting to get our hands on these tools, and that's going to be the greatest thing. And I've always said, I love about what you guys do, that you're inspiring the people who are hidden in corners, and they don't have magazines, they don't shout from the rooftops, but they're sitting there building building the platforms. And it's one of the things I'm always asked to sort of convey to you guys, is that because particularly these guys, they don't tend to go out in public a lot, and they don't put their heads above the parapet. But I'm always getting so much love from that side, and I just think it's fascinating. And what I love about it most is because I think what you just spoke upon there, Dan, my brother, is that the way that anything really fundamentally changes, in, like you say, is from within yourself, which is that DIY spirit, and then just letting people know so they don't waste their time and energy going down paths that we learned not to go down. And this is the great times we've done, because it's all right. Like I say, well, I mean, you're a perfect example of a band who are maybe a bit of a bridge between some of the new technologies going on, the decentralized technologies and everything, and that connection with the musicians. But the most powerful way isn't people reading it in, articles on technology. It's hearing it, as we spoke many times, word to mouth and face to face. And I think that's a great power we've got at the moment, which is full circle with all this technology. As we were talking, as you were saying the other day to me, Dan, with all this technology, we're losing a part of ourselves. And then actually the most powerful thing we've got is that voice to voice, as you were just speaking, talking to people. And I think it's really powerful, dude. And it's that whole point of where we are in time and space and everything. Now, on the video from this, I'm going to see if we can cue this up, because we said we have fun trying to cue up screen shares. But when we try to attempt to play, while I'm queuing this up, dude, while this screen share, again, tell the audience about the process of making this, because I mean, it was a fascinating little tale you told me about how the actual process of this came about, making it. And so, well, like I say, while I'm sort of putting the screen share, maybe give the people a bit of an insight to how this came about.
Okay, so this is the announcement of the record as such. It's a trailer for the body of work's called Nil, and the trailer sort of plays on the theme of unmasking, and very much again has the symbolism of a rose within it.
Yeah, so it's a very sort of slow shot visual at first. So it's like you see the three figures sat in front, or well behind, the three masks, which we utilise in our visuals. And well, you'll see. But yeah, so it was interesting collaborating for this specific video, because we worked with our friend Nick Gaffin and another fella called Tom Lindsay, and they shot it in Bristol. In Bristol, in the garage. So, and it doesn't reveal too much, and it's not meant to. Do you know what I mean? It's meant to leave a bit of a question. You know what I mean? But that's the taster. That's when it's just trying to give a bit of a taste and a bit of a there's a bit of the seasoning which is going to be in the full meal. Do you know what I mean? So official sort of reflection of this body of work, really, and introduction to it, and yeah, taking the baton from March Forward, really. Taking the baton from it. Yeah.
So yeah, I'd hope to think kind of interesting pieces.
Definitely.
Perfect.
So there you go. So yeah, the track that it utilises is one which is part of the album. It's called The Rose.
Oh man, as I said to you the other day, I think the visuals on that are absolutely spectacular, and I kind of I'm looking, and you mentioned that and I think it sort of leads into the next sort of bleeds into it. So you mentioned you played that as your intro to the 360s gig, so that kind of bleeds into really. I mean, how was how was it to be back at the 360 gig, man? Obviously with the Terrorist Boys and and all the rest of them. How was the feel, and how did the project? I mean, again, did you get to play that projection? And
Yeah, no, it was class, Tim. Thanks, man. Yeah, we always love being in Leeds and being amongst Leeds and playing in the 360 club. It's always a good time. It's always great sound, and the lineup was cool this time. We played quite a lot of Terrorists, who were always fun to play with, and
Yeah, they're good.
we played with Impious and Dan Audio in the breaks this time, which was great just to see some
new
stuff that we haven't seen before as well. Yeah. So yeah, man, we had a really good time. It was interesting having a sort of official that official as an intro.
We also had a projection that is still from that video. It's like a
The
banner.
logo,
Yeah, banner.
So yeah, man, it was class.
It's a fun way to set the sort of tone for the set, and not every venue has a projector and them sort of things. But because we played the 360 club a few times, we knew the sort of setup and what to expect. So I had the idea, it was almost like quite late in the day, not really, but it was like a couple of weeks before the gig. He was like, yeah, it'd be cool if we premiere this video live at the gig, because obviously we dropped it today on NAR. So it's
Narc really previewed it, but yeah, we just
NARC they've premiered it on their website and through their accounts, really, in terms of digital thing, but to just to play it live in front of an audience, so they can't go and find that straight away. You're not going to be able to find it. It's nowhere to be found. To set the tone for the start of the gig, it was quite interesting, and we got some good feedback from it. So yeah, people were feeling that. So yeah, man, it was a good move. And like you say, the 360 Club's always a great venue to play at. So it's Richard Watson who runs that, and he's always an interesting cat to have a chat to. Always got big love for him. We had the article in the Yorkshire Evening Post a couple of days before, giving a bit more information about for the gig, and just touching on this release which we've been building up, which we're finally glad and over the moon to get to announce the title being Nil. So Nil 2017 in September, coming out on Win Big Records. So yeah, man, it's good to make these progressions and make these steps, and yeah, the visual element, as you know, with all our stuff, Tim. I mean, that's how you found us. I mean, that's what first gravitated you to us. It's always been an important part of our sort of full package and full bodywork as an artist and as a band.
well, yeah, and again, and I think this leads to, and as I said to you the other day, I think when we get edged closer towards Neil being released, we'd definitely get you back on to have a real sort of breakdown of the whole thing. But I just want to say, and I don't think I'm giving anything too much away. People, one of the things, and I think you just spoke upon it there, Dan, it's always been the synergy and the particularly between our artwork and the Scene Demons, and well. I think we're going to. I think we've raised the benchmark. That's all I'm going to say. With what what we're planning to do gets the art and what we're planning to do with the new album Neil. I think we've definitely raised the benchmark, and I think the benchmark has been raised all over. And I say that genuinely. I think it's it would have been so easy for you just to sit back and on your laurels and kind of put out almost like dual sides part easy part 2 kind of thing. But you've really stretched yourself, and it's going to be it's fascinating, absolutely fascinating to watch this particularly grow, and obviously. And I think the other thing I really wanted to sort of speak to you about, obviously, leading up to this, the album coming out, which is in late September, 22nd and stuff. People are obviously going to, there's some dates and stuff they're going to talk, you can play. And obviously your next one coming up is obviously, again, relating to NARC and stuff. But just generally, where people wanted to catch you, obviously they can follow you on Twitter and Facebook, but where particularly you got gigs coming up, and just generally, and again, I'm asked this question, so I'm also relaying it. Are there any plans to take this, on a bigger, a bigger kind of gigs all over the country after the release of the album?
Okay, yeah. So our next show is, like you say, NARC associated. It's at NARC Fest, Endless Window stage at the Tannis Arms. So that's on July the 1st. I think we're joint headlining with a cool band called Transfigure. And the stage that we're on, it's quite cool. It's a band called Duck. Fish. So we're really looking forward to that. It should be a good fun day, and a bit like Dan mentioned before about like Stockton Calling and Evolution Immersion. I feel like it'll be one of them when there's lots going on in all the venues, and it's just a good,
free one.
Good fight.
And it's free. It's free as well.
And it's free. So get down if you're anywhere in Newcastle.
Several venues all in the Eastbourne Valley.
Yeah, and then the following weekend we're down in Sheffield for the first time in a while. Playing at a venue called Dina on the 7th of July, Friday the 7th of July, I believe.
Yeah.
So that would be fun to get back down there. And then we are in Middlesbrough on the 20th of July at Whirling Dervish.
A venue called TS1.
TS1 with our...
Which is on Limport Road.
Yeah, with promoter who we've worked with before, is a really cool guy. And then we're in Manchester a couple of days after that for the first time in a while as well. So yeah, really looking forward to these upcoming July dates, and just playing some places that we haven't been in a while, man. And hopefully later on we're sort of working on trying to book some dates a bit more further afield in the UK. For when we do release Nil. So we're looking at September, October time, hoping to get up to Scotland and down south England. So keep an eye out, and of course we'll be playing Northern England as well, because that's where our heart is.
It's our roots, but yeah, just keep your eyes peeled for future dates tying around the time of release, which is 22nd of September.
Well, perfect. Like I said, it's I'm really, thank you both of you for giving me your time tonight, because I particularly know, just to give me a little bit of time today, particularly today, has been an absolute honour. So, well, as I said before, we'll definitely get you back in on the release of the album. We'll talk about that in depth, because there's a lot of things I want to talk to you about that, particularly on that conversation. But man, I'm going to finish tonight on. I'm going to finish on. You mentioned earlier on. You sent me a copy a few months ago of the new album. To sort of, and I'm going to play the version that's on of March Forward that was on the copy you sent me. Now, it's not a lot different from the one that's sent before, but it's a more stripped down version. And if you listen to both, or listen both, back to back, you'll tell the difference. But it was my stripped down version I heard first of all. So I'm going to finish that. So while I'm queuing that up, as I say, thank you very much for your time. Like I said, the door's always open. I don't know, just for people who are listening, maybe just give people let them know where they can reach out, where they can find you on Twitter and X. And again, because there's not. Places like Minds as well, because bear in mind we have quite a few people interested in Minds who are listening to this. So just generally, where if people want to reach out to you, can they find you? And like I said, it's been an absolute honour and privilege, and look forward to speaking to you anytime.
Totally. Thank you very much for having us, Tim.
Thanks so much, man.
Always much appreciated. So you can find us on your general social medias, Twitter, is at Sailing Demons. Facebook /Sailing Demons. We're on Instagram. if you're on Spotify, get yourself searching Sealing Demons on that, give us a follow. We are on Minds, like you say, or I think I have been using it, not in a little while actually, but I need to get back on it. But yeah, it's a cool community going on down there, so very artistic, very creative, and very open-minded sort of platform. So yeah, I encourage people to check out Minds and give us a search on there, or if you just want to check out different social media from all your Facebook and all your fucking bollocks which is out there, have a look at the Minds as well, because it's quite cool for an alternative platform. Obviously on YouTube.
YouTube, or if you want to just be old school, man, you can hit us up on email. It's just sealingdemons@hotmail.com.
I just want to say thanks very much again, Tim, and I just want to say
thank you so much.
Just wish everyone fucking so much love and blessing on the summer solstice. You know, it's a powerful, important time of the year, and yeah, just nothing but love and blessings to all.
Rise again to another day, to another life in another cage. The church bells ring and call your name, lured into the fire like a moth to a flame. Catch the light and see the skies ablaze. We kept it lit during the darkest days. The winter came and claimed our mates, but we survived and praised the brave. Returned to grace, cast down our ropes and blades. The battle is over the top, so make a change. Stand up and be counted for in this game. Negativity will be slain and replaced with a plus. This is how we walk, and every step is moving us up. Follow the lights and rise above. The ceiling cracked with light and love. Feel this 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 light and love. Heading towards the sound of horns, we've grown so sore from hearts now torn, bottled in a storm. This is unlike before, but we march forward. Born from the barrel of a gun, shoot the feeling and the sun. Who will soldier on and who will die young? Fathers like their sons, but who has the problems? Are there solutions? Stability then ruin. There's a weight upon our chest, it also weighs upon our heads. Master stress, smoke cigarettes. Live today like you were dead, but pay respects to the friends that passed you by and made amends. A white rose in a flower bed, soldier on until the end.